video, we're gonna do a little Q&A. I'm gonna answer some of the questions that you guys have asked me. Hi, it's Karolyn. Welcome back to my channel. I'm a professional cake decorator. I've been decorating cakes since 2002. And on this channel, I share my tips and tricks and ways that I bake and decorate cakes to help you along your journey. So if you'd like to join me, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you can get notified whenever I release a new video. So this video is going to be a little different. I want to be able to talk to you guys. Actually, Marie suggested that I sit down and have a cup of coffee and just have a little chat with you guys, which is what I'm going to do, sans the sitting down and having coffee. But I want to be able to answer some of the questions that you guys have asked me. So I put out there on YouTube, I put a little questionnaire, or I posted a question and just asked if you guys had any questions that you wanted me to answer, and I got a bunch of them and I have them written down. I'm going to go over that. And side note, I know my hair is orange. Please, you're not allowed to make fun of me. You can make fun of me if you want. It's looking a little ragu-ish. My boyfriend says I'm a little dramatic. However, it wasn't supposed to be this color. I feel like it's a little spaghetti, so a little ragu chic, if you will, but it will be fixed in a few days. So anyway, let's get into the video. All right, I don't want to put the glasses on, so I'm just gonna have to hold it all the way out of here to be able to read. Oh geez, what is wrong with me? Anyway, so I have them all listed. Every time anyone asks me a question, I put them on a little Word document because that's what I do. So to start, Marie asked, how do I store fondant cakes until pickup? I keep all of my cakes in the refrigerator. I'm gonna put this down, that's a little distracting. I keep all of my cakes in the refrigerator. I have always done it that way. That's how I do it. I don't know if I could make cakes if I didn't have refrigerators, just because I like working with cold cakes. I feel like they're less prone to get messed up, and anytime I cover them in fondant or put fondant decorations on them, they go in the refrigerator until they're ready to be picked up. Now, a lot of people ask, in the warmer months, how do you prevent condensation from forming? You have to gradually bring the cake to room temperature. If you take it out of a cold refrigerator and bring it into a warm room, it's going to get condensation on it and it's going to mess up. You have to have air-conditioned room to bring the cake into once you take it out of the refrigerator. I have a whole video on that, and I can link that below on how to deal with sweaty cakes, so I don't have to go into all of that. And then Marie also asked, do I like to do fondant over buttercream or ganache? I personally like to work with buttercream. I usually just do my American buttercream recipe, which I can link below, which is a butter and shortening based recipe. I have done ganache. I have ice cakes in ganache before. I don't do it that much. However, ganache does hold up well underneath fondant. I just prefer to use buttercream. And two more questions from Marie. How far in advance do I make fondant? I use so much fondant. I make marshmallow fondant, and I use so much of it that I make it weekly. And I've said before that it drives me a little insane because it just makes a mess of my kitchen. However, I make probably about 4 to 5 batches of fondant every week, and I go through it just because I use it so much. You wrap it up in a plastic wrap, put it in an airtight container, and it can stay for a couple weeks. I do have a video on how I make my marshmallow fondant, and I can link that below as well. And Marie also asked about coloring fondant or buying pre-colored fondant. I don't buy fondant, I just make it. I find that albeit, is that the right word? Although it is a pain in the butt for me to make, it's cheaper and it tastes better, and I'm just so used to working with it. If I have to make a big batch of fondant, I have a video on how I make white and black fondant. I add the coloring to the marshmallows before I add it to the powder. So I can link that below. However, I mean, I have had clients who don't eat gelatin and have had to purchase Wilton fondant or other pre-made fondant and use that instead. I just prefer to use marshmallow fondant. Did that answer the question? I prefer to color the fondant instead of buying it. So I did answer the question. All right, on to Andrea. And the ring light is leaving like a circle, and I can't even see. All right, from Andrea, while you are baking or decorating, do you keep your kitchen organized and somewhat clean during the process? My kitchen gets destroyed. Do you have any tips? That is a challenge, especially when I'm filming and I'm like, ugh, now I have to wipe the counters down, get rid of the cornstarch, get everything out of the background and try to make it look nice and neat. And yes, I mean, we use our kitchen, it's going to get a little messed up. When I know that it's getting a little out of control is when I'm walking around like, where is my X-Acto knife? I can't find it anywhere. Then I have to stop what I'm doing and just take 10 minutes and clean up and then start all over again. It makes me feel so much better because you can kind of get a little crazy and stressed out when things aren't in order and you can't find anything. So my kitchen does get messed up, but try to take time to clean it up or reorganize as you're working and things will go a lot smoother. And another question from Andrea. How did you get all your cake supplies? The reusable supplies that I use, did I buy them as I go along or did I buy everything all at once? And I bought it as I went along. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of dollars worth of supplies and although I can see if you're starting a business and you need all of that stuff, however, I find that it's a lot easier to just purchase things as you need them. It seems like it costs less, although you end up spending the same amount of money. I just found it easier to purchase things as I needed them. $10 here, $20 there. It is a little expensive in the beginning because it's an investment that you're making. However, now that I've been doing it for almost 20 years, I pretty much have everything that I need. I still buy supplies for cakes though as I'm going along and I realize that I don't have anything. But I have bought supplies thinking that I was going to use them and they're still in the box. So I prefer to just buy things as I am making the cakes and I figure out what I need. Okay, another question from Andrea. What's your timeline for baking and decorating? She asks if I bake my cakes a few days ahead of time, do I make my icing ahead of time and the fondant decorations? So here's what I like to do. And if you've watched any of my videos on how I bake my cakes with my recipes, I do show you how I freeze my layers after I bake them. It really keeps them moist. It makes them, I feel like since I've been freezing my cake layers, they have tasted so much better. And it allows you to make it in advance. So I will usually bake on Sunday for the following weekend and keep it in the freezer for a couple days. It's fine in the freezer. And you can also, I make American buttercream, which I said before, so I can make that in advance to ice the cakes with and keep that in the refrigerator as well. So I can bake and ice or make the icing in advance. And then what I do with the fondant decorations, I like to make those a couple days in advance as well. I like to see what size cake they're going on. So if I'm making a decoration that's going to go on an 8-inch tier, I let it dry on an 8-inch cake dummy so it can dry with a curve to it. I have talked about that before in my other videos, but if you just let everything dry flat, it could crack as you put it on the cake. So you just need to pay attention to where you're putting the decorations, if you're putting it on the side of a cake or versus the top of the cake. You need to know all of that in advance, but yeah, that makes it so much easier to have the cakes and the icing made and the decorations made, and then towards the end of the week you can fill them and ice them and decorate them. Okay, I got a question from Lori and I need to admit I'm not too sure what to answer for this, so I will read this. What is the best type of flour, bleached or unbleached all-purpose flour for cakes? I personally use bleached all-purpose flour. I have tried cake flour before years ago, like 12 years ago, and I hated it. And I can't even remember what happened with it, but I just remember it was a disaster. And I just prefer to use all-purpose flour, bleached all-purpose flour for my cakes. Then she says, does it matter if the granulated sugar is fine versus extra fine? I use extra fine granulated sugar that I get at the restaurant store. It's just a local store where I get my sugar and flour and boxes and drums and boards. I'm not sure if it makes a difference, and I'm sorry, I don't want to just Google and find the answer and pretend that I know, because I'm really not sure if it makes such a big difference in the texture. All I know is that I've been using the extra fine granulated sugar and it turns out really well. And then she also asks, does a source of cane sugar or beet sugar mattered in powdered sugar or granulated sugar, and does it really affect the flavor outcome in baked goods? So that's another thing that I don't really know. When I make icing, I literally use Target brand or whatnot powdered sugar. I like to buy it. This is just, it doesn't say anything about beet sugar on here, just sugar and cornstarch. I prefer to use powdered sugar that is in 2-pound bags rather than getting a giant bag of it at the wholesale store, because giant bags tend to have clumps of sugar in it, then you have to take forever to sift it. And I find that these small bags are just a lot easier to work with. It is a little more pricey, not that much to make a difference, but that's why I prefer to use these bags. So I just use regular Target brand or Domino brand powdered sugar. Why couldn't I think of what it was? So I know that really doesn't answer your question. I'm so sorry. And I wish I knew a little more about how that works, but I'm not too sure about that. Just want to be honest with you. Next, Edna asked me, how long does it take to bake and decorate a cake? I try to plan and prepare ahead of time, but still take hours to complete one cake order. How many cake orders do you take in 1 week? Do you give yourself a limit? And this is one of the questions that I get asked so much, like, how long did that take? It's hard to tell because I bake everything in one day, and I might be baking for 5 or 6 cakes in one day. Then I'll make the icing. I don't just work on one cake start to finish. I would say that a cake, a simple-ish cake would be about 5 hours, and a more detailed cake could be 12 plus hours from start to finish. But I'm just not sure how to answer that question. It definitely is time consuming, and it takes a lot longer than you think. I've had a lot of people try to make cakes and they don't realize what goes into it until they do it themselves. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you do this all the time. So, between 5 and 12 hours per cake is usually what I gauge for my time. That didn't even make sense. You know what I'm saying. And as for, do I have a limit? Yes, I have a limit. Do I go over that limit? All the time. Do I stress myself out? All the time. Last week was my busiest week ever. I had 11 orders and it ended in tears, and I messed up a cake at the very end and I had to fix it. And here's the thing. It's hard to turn down money. It's hard to turn down the orders. I don't want to upset people. I want to make cakes for their parties and people want me to make their cakes, and I feel so bad saying no. But sometimes you got to say no, because if you take on too many orders, which I do all the time, sometimes the quality is not there because you're just so stressed out and trying to get done that I feel like it's not up to my own standards, and then I stress myself out and I'm crying because I need to add a zebra and I didn't do the zebra right, and I get in my head. So my max, what I like to stay around is between 6 and 8, depending on the size and the detail. But sometimes I go over that and I just plan that week is going to suck and I'm just going to be literally in the kitchen all day, every day. But try not to do it that much because you will go insane. All right, we have 7 more questions left. Rebecca asked me, thank you so much for your tutorials. You're welcome. And she said, how do you determine the best consistency of your buttercream for different techniques, piping or covering a cake? I always struggle with this, and I end up wasting a lot of buttercream. All right. It's difficult to explain just saying to the camera. If you are piping with buttercream, you want it to be a thin consistency. You want it to easily flow out of the tip so you can write with it. If it's too thick, it's going to skip and it's going to lift and it's going to want you to throw the cake out of the window. And I've done it plenty of times. So you need to make sure that you thin it out enough, but not too much. There's always that happy medium there. You thin it out enough so you can write with it easily, you can pipe with it easily. If you are making flowers, if you're making roses or buttercream, buttercream flowers, it needs to hold its shape. So it's going to be a little tougher to pipe, but you don't want it to droop. So, there's that other fine line that you have to find between being able to squeeze it out of the bag and make the flowers. And it can't be too Too thick won't look right, too thin will fall over it. And this is a horrible way for me to to describe it. However, it's just, I know this from working with it for so long. It's a fine line with these consistencies. And I find that for icing a cake, it needs to be a little thinner than thicker. If it's thicker, it's not going to stick to the side of the cake. It's going to stick to your spatula. It's going to pull off and make crumbs and, again, drive you insane. So I do have videos on how I ice cakes and all that and how I write on cakes. I can link that below. I hope that answered the question, but it's that fine line that you have to walk, and you have to know you need the thin consistency to write with, a medium consistency for icing, and a firmer consistency for flowers that have to hold their shape. I hope that made sense. Next question. Gwen asks, or Gwendolyn, I don't know which one you go by, but do you use a Cricut for edible images? If so, how did you learn how to use it? She got one for Christmas and hasn't used it yet. And my mom got me a Cricut machine probably 10 years ago, and I think it was a cake Cricut machine, and I used it once for fondant, dragged the fondant all over the place. It was horrible. I was like, this sucks. And it's stored somewhere that I have no clue where it is. So I do not use a Cricut machine. I would love to learn how to use one, but I do not have one for my edible images. I print them out, just use scissors and cut them all out. It is a little time consuming. Sometimes I ask my mom to do it for me because she can cut. So I don't use a Cricut, or if you don't use scissors, you can use a sharp X-Acto knife, use the blade, and cut the images out that way. I love Cricuts though. I think they're so cool, and I would love to learn how to use them. However, mine collects dust as well, so don't feel that bad. All right, next question. Maggie asks, first of all, thank you for the simple down-to-earth instructions and all your tutorials. You're welcome. What is wrong with me? Anyway, she said, I'm mostly curious about how you price your cakes. If you put out a video explaining this, I guess I missed it. So I do have a video out on how I price my cakes. I don't tell you this cake is $300. I tell you what to take into consideration when you price a cake, because a lot of things, when you are pricing cakes, you have to take into account not only ingredients, sometimes if they want like a ganache filling, that's going to cost more, but also certain decorations. Like I said in my pricing video, Minecraft with all those stupid squares. I hate Minecraft because I did it once and I was up all night crying because it took forever. You know, there are certain things that you need to take into consideration before you price your cakes, and I will link that below so you can see that and I don't keep rambling on. And Maggie also asked how much space to dedicate to decorating cakes. I feel like my cake decorating tools and materials are taking over my kitchen. And yes, so right now I'm living with my mom, and I took over her kitchen, and she is so sweet and adorable for letting me do this until I get my own place. But yes, it's just, I think it's par for the course, if you will, that if you're a cake decorator, you're gonna have cake stuff everywhere. I try to keep everything off to the side. I have stackable shelves that I keep all of my baking supplies on, and I have 2 extra refrigerators that I just use, just dedicated for cakes, because you're not supposed to commingle, is that the right word? Your home food with your cake food. That's supposed to be completely separate. So I have extra refrigerators for that. But yes, I mean, I think it's all about organization and trying to find ways to keep everything organized. Once I have a new place and I am all set up and organized in there, I will show you guys how I do that and try to keep everything neat and clean. And yeah, hopefully that'll be soon. All right, 4 more things. Question from Melanie. When making fondant cutout decorations, when cutting, do you ever get wrinkles or elephant skin? I let my fondant sit after rolling before cutting it and still get wrinkles. Not sure if I'm letting it dry too long. So, it has happened before, and it's a big pain in the butt because it ruins the fondant and it's super annoying. I only work with marshmallow fondant. I'm not sure if you were working with marshmallow fondant or some store-bought fondant. However, if you've seen my videos, you know that I add Tylose powder to all my fondant. It's so much easier to work with once this Tylose powder is added. I will link this below. A little bit goes a long way, but it's gonna let it dry harder like gum paste. It's gonna hold its shape. Any videos that you see me cutting fondant, I explain how I use this. The fondant does dry harder when you use it, but it doesn't wrinkle. What you have to do, you have to sprinkle it on the fondant, knead it in, let it sit. Let the Tylose work. Sometimes I knead it in and it's probably another half hour to 45 minutes before I can go back and use it. So you need to give it a chance to start to stiffen up. I keep all of my colored fondant in this lock and lock container. And because I'm crazy, I separate them in different bags of neutrals, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Okay, this is how I keep them. However, so the fondant, what can I talk? The fondant that I keep in there is pretty soft. Like I can squeeze it with my fingers, and I would have to pop this in the microwave to warm it up before I would roll it out and use it. But it has Tylose powder mixed into it, and it's gonna hold its shape. It doesn't wrinkle. It doesn't get elephant skin when I use the Tylose powder. So I wish there was a better way for me to explain it, but that Tylose powder has been a saving grace. It makes my decorations so crisp and clean. You just have to get used to learning how much to use, because sometimes you add a little too much. I don't have any rock hard fondant right now because I got rid of it all, but sometimes it dries hard as a rock, and you can, like, that's not that bad, but it would sound like, you know, like once it gets really hard, you gotta toss it. But as long as it stays soft before you put it in the microwave, it's still usable. But mix Tylose in with your fondant, let it sit for a little bit, and then start to work with it and see if you have a better result. Big ups to you if you're still here in the video this long, because I don't know who wants to sit around and listen to me talk like this forever, but I appreciate you if you're still here. All right, we have 3 questions left. Cake or Baker asked, you didn't say specifically cake related, so I would like to ask a couple questions. She has, do you have children? If not, do you want them one day? I know you mentioned your boyfriend before. What does he do? Do you have siblings? And don't mind me being nosy. So I don't really talk about myself that much because I just feel like people want to learn about cakes and not about Karolyn, but I can talk about me if you want. So I don't have any kids. I'm 43. It just never worked out that I have kids. I do have a boyfriend. We started dating the first day that they shut the world down because of Corona. And we've been dating ever since. I met him at the gym when I was on the oblique machine doing my obliques. But some of you may know from watching my videos, I am a yoga instructor, and I was teaching pole fitness until I got injured, my stupid elbow and stupid wrist. And sometimes I look back at my old videos and see how cut my my arms were because I was working out like 10 hours a week, and I can't teach or take pole classes anymore, which was so much fun. But I am still teaching yoga, and I do that besides making cakes. And she asked if I have a sibling. I have one sister. She lives in California, and I haven't seen her in forever, and I miss her so much. And yeah, nothing really exciting. I'm just the yoga teacher who makes cakes and makes a fool out of herself on YouTube. So, but thanks for asking. Okay, second to last question. I'm going to say this wrong, but it's Rabierias. Asked, how long has it been since you started your YouTube channel? And it's funny because I started about 6 years ago. I made my first video, I think it was how to clean your KitchenAid mixer, because I was just like, I wonder how this YouTube thing works. And I made that, and like how to make fondant petals. And just from those 2 videos, I gained over 1,000 subscribers without even making other videos. So over 2 or 3 years, I was just gaining subscribers. And sometimes I look back at my old videos and cringe. I really started doing YouTube videos about 3 years ago, and I cringe because I'm not that great with the camera. But just like anything else, you get better as you do it. You grow and learn in the whole process. So yeah, it's been about 5 or 6 years, but I've really been active for the last 2 or 3 years on YouTube. And I have to say, I love being able to reach out and talk to you guys and help you guys from all over the world. And it just makes me feel so good that people are able to use my techniques. Someone made my hip hop cake and sent me the picture the other day, and I was just so excited because it makes me feel so good that I'm able to help you guys. So I really love all of the feedback, and I haven't gotten any negative feedback yet, which is, I'm really happy about that. One person did call me Karen, and I'm the furthest thing away from a Karen ever, but that's okay, that's fine. But no, you guys have been really awesome, so thank you so much. I really appreciate your support, and I look forward to making more videos and helping you guys out along your journey. And the last thing is just something that I wanted to put in there is I get asked about cake mix versus scratch cakes. So if you watch my channel and you've seen my videos, you know that my decorated cakes are from a boxed mix. I make a doctored mix recipe for my decorated cakes, and they're so good. They're so delicious. I know there can be a stigma attached to it. However, this is what I recommend. I know a lot of people use doctored mix recipes for their cakes. Don't lie about it. I tell anyone who asks me, I'm honest, and I tell them because they're so good. People don't realize, I think that cake mixes get a bad rap because when they first came out, they were disgusting, but that was like 40 years ago. And they really have improved since, and adding all of these other ingredients to it makes it taste so good, and people really love the taste. So if somebody asks me if I use a cake mix for my cakes, I will never lie because I'm not ashamed of it because the cakes are so good. So if you're going to use a cake mix, don't lie. If you're going to use a scratch recipe, that is wonderful too. And I just feel like we shouldn't put anyone down for how they decide to bake. And it's such a shame that it does happen. It's just one of those things in this industry. Some people are pro doctored mix, some people are pro scratch, and that's okay. Whatever you decide to do is good. Just be proud of it and be honest with people and let them know what you decided or how to, why can't I talk? Let them know if they ask you how you make your cakes. Just be honest. Now I do use a scratch recipe for my famous pound cakes, which I do not give my recipe out. It's a secret recipe, so I'm so sorry if you ask me for that recipe for my pound cakes. I'm not ready to release the recipe yet, but yes, so I do scratch baking and I do doctored mix baking, and I love them both. So my mouth is getting dry, I'm running out of breath, and I know I've been rambling on for so long, and if you're still here, bravo. Like, thank you for taking the time and watching this whole video. And again, I know I said this before, I seriously appreciate each and every one of you. This is so much fun. I love being able to help you guys and share with you guys, and I look forward to making videos for many more years and helping you guys along your journey, and I already said that. So anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling. If you have any other questions or comments, leave them below, and I will get back to you. I do answer all of my comments, although sometimes they slip through the cracks, and I don't know why, and I can't get to them, but I will try to answer all of them that I can. And if you haven't, you can follow me on social media. I'm gonna try to point right at them. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I have my website. Did I do it right? And I will link them below as well. And please watch these videos next and hit the subscribe button and the bell if you haven't already. Please like this video if you liked it and got something out of it. It really helps out my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.